As we're dealing with the aftermath of what appears to be a Donald Trump victory in the presidential race in 2024, a lot of people want to deal with blame. And there's a lot of people to blame. I start with the media back in 2015. If they would have dealt with Donald Trump like the joke that he was then and not taking him seriously and kept putting him out with free advertising by showing him on the news all the time with how dumb he was, and gave him some legitimacy because people kept seeing his campaign, he would have gained steam and he wouldn't have gotten out of the primary. That's part of it. I blame the Republicans for not realizing how big of a threat he could have been and coalescing around one good primary challenger early enough to block him. They were a very disrupted field. They had a lot of challengers, and when you spread the vote, unfortunately, the worst candidate typically comes to the top like that. Happens a lot of times in your House and Senate races. Okay. Go to his first impeachment. I blame Republicans in the Senate for not voting to impeach him for trying to withhold aid to Ukraine. If they would have voted to convict him then, he would have been out of power, and that would have been the end of it. 2020, we did the job. We got him out. We voted him out of office. 2021, I blame any of the newly elected Republicans that helped him stage January 6th, that voted with him to not certify the election. The ones that didn't vote to convict him in his second impeachment. Because if they would have had the brass to vote to convict him then, again, he'd been disqualified. And we wouldn't be dealing with this now. Then he goes back, he slinks off to Mar-a-Lago. It looks like he's done politically. Kevin McCarthy goes down, kisses the ring, and tries to bring him back as some kind of a unifying message to the Republicans. And since then, they kept kowtowing to Donald Trump. If the Republicans would have stood up to him at any point between then and now, we wouldn't be dealing with him at this point. I also blame Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland, when he became Attorney General in 2021, put the investigations into Donald Trump on the back burner because he didn't want to appear political and to investigate a former president and the rival to the sitting president. Didn't want to do it, so put it off until it could be put off no longer. And then he gives us special counsel Jack Smith, who took over and barnstormed through it and then was allowed to slow walk it through the justice system because judges and the Supreme Court and everything was slow walking it. Blame all of them. And then I blame the roughly 15 million plus voters that did not show up and vote for Kamala Harris because Donald Trump got about as many votes in this election as he got in 2020. As of right now, it's about even. So his support didn't change. Joe Biden got 81 million votes in 2020. Kamala Harris is currently sitting at like 64, 65 million, something like that. That's 15 million plus that she did not get. That would have put her over the top in enough states to win the presidency. So I don't know what happened. I haven't looked into the hard data to see if that was down ballot races that got voted for and people skipped the top or if people just didn't show up at all. But there's a lot of blame to go around. And now that we know where the blame lies, we need to move on. We need to look toward 2026, making sure the Democrats do what they can do to block most of this from going into play. And then in 2026, we need to make sure the Democrats have the House, that they have the Senate, so he cannot implement his agenda. Because in 2028, he will be term limited. He will not be able to run again by the Constitution. So we need to do what we have to do to make sure that we survive the next 4 years. And that's all we can do. We know where the blame lies, and now we need to figure out how to fix those issues so they don't happen again.